But he was proud of him.
He was proud of him on one hand. See, look, he listened to me. He has a big house, and the next hand he told him, he's a putz. I can't have him on paper. I don't trust him. He's a schlomazel, you know. So it worked both ways, and I was the one who just would never get into business with him. Ran screaming from Toledo as soon as I got out of high school to New York, and then to L.A. And as I came out of my own drug stupor, I insisted that he never talk to me the way he used to, never talk about my wife the way he did, or my sons. And this was something he never heard from the other two boys. As long as he kept shelling out money. Go ahead, shit on my wife. Go ahead, you want to kick her? Go ahead, you know. And so, as I said, the Cinderella thing was he just kept laying out money to my brothers. He was an attorney. And when I went to school in New York, he made me. I lived in a hotel room on Broadway and 32nd, which was only hookers and Scientologists. And to toy with me, you know, I was 18 then. He said, I'll pay the rent for your hotel, and I would come back from school, and the door would be padlocked, and they would tell me your father hasn't. It was $32 a week, but this was his way of manipulating me, saying, you want to come home now? You want to come home now? And I never moved back. Good for you. To that place.
But did it skip a generation? Were they? I don't know if your dad was alive when your son started becoming successful, but your mother must have been.
Yes, my father never. My son is on a show called The Big Bang Theory. He's one of the stars of it. And no, but my mother did when she was in the assisted living. She would be in bed, and all the nurses, this is in Toledo, so all the nurses and her friends would come into her room and watch her grandson.
Was you proud of him?
She was very proud of him. So she was able to completely block me out.
But that's the truth. My mother's completely skipped a generation. My kids can do no wrong.
Right.
She treats them with love, with respect, with reverence, with kindness.
Right. And my son went to NYU. My father helped out a little bit, and then he took credit. He said, see, I helped him go to and he would have a way of lowering. My wife is in AA and has been for 26 years, and even that, when we suggested that for my brother, he would ask me, so how's Hetty? It's AAA. But he had a way of demeaning things with language, and I told someone his perception of addiction, my brother's heroin addiction, he would say to me, because he couldn't say heroin, he said, couldn't he use just a little heroin? I said, no, he can't use just a little.
Oh my God. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah. Well, it's not a question, and I'm not a doctor.
You could be one.
Yeah, and there's no way that this is insinuated to make any sort of hall pass for your parents, but I was just sitting here thinking, what age were they when they went to camp?
13.
So from 13 to 19, they had no one who hugged them, no one who showed them warmth, no one who told them they loved them.
That's a very good point.
No one to look after them, so they weren't really set up to be parents. Plus everything else that does to you. And you know, maybe somehow, some way, all this made you stronger, and they noticed the other two were weak.
That's a very good point.
You had that.
You had it together.
Kind of just saw, we gotta help these two because they're losers.
That's an excellent point.
You know.
I mean, I do, this is part of the whole thing, but the title of it is, you can only blame so much on the Holocaust. Some of it is attributed to the Holocaust, some of it is attributed to who they are.
Did you ever go to any of the children of Holocaust survivors?
No, I didn't. I met them. I didn't need that kind of support.
Did your parents ever do a thing for the Shoah Foundation? Did they do it?
Yes.
My mother-in-law did a thing for the Shoah Foundation.
Yes, and my father was responsible for putting up a monument in the Jewish funeral cemetery and in the temple, and you know, they had the numbers on their arms. And as a kid, my friends used to ask my mother, "What is that? Your mother's got a tattoo?" And she said, "Leave me alone. It's my phone number in case I forget."
That's really an excellent point, Gina.
Yeah, that is.
I've had two boyfriends who are second generation Holocaust, and it's exactly what you said.
And they're as good looking as I am?
The one is.
No.
weren't allowed to celebrate birthdays, they
Right.
weren't allowed to be happy, they weren't allowed to get presents,
Mm-hmm.
no music, nothing.
Well, the three brothers never spoke to each other. My father was the spoke. If I wanted to know how Ted was, I'd call my father and ask him, because if we started talking to each other, we'd say, he's out of his fucking mind. So everything would go through him until he passed away, and then we started to hook up the three of us, and then I realized I really hate these two guys.
You know, there was romance in the camps, by the way, because they're cousins, they're not uncle, I call them uncle, but they met in the camps also. And they were together for 50-something years and
Right.
had children after the war, and they both lost spouses. My cousin actually had to do a Sophie's Choice and watched her children be killed and was raped and all that kind of stuff, and there was life afterwards. They found
Right.
each other, they had a
Right.
life, and they lived a long time. In fact, she's still alive.
Really?
She's still alive. Yes, my uncle died. Her husband died some years ago. But it's interesting because it's not about the Holocaust, because she was the most loving parent. You know, she to her sons. It's just, we just had rotten fucking mothers. So, I mean, there's just people that no matter what the circumstance, and I think it goes back to, though, not being loved themselves. I mean, we learn these behaviors.
Right.
And if we don't have good role models, I mean, I think my mother's doing the best she can, and I'm sure your mother did the best she could. And what makes us loving or not, I don't think is as much a product of what happens to us as it is the people that nurtured us. Yeah, that.
I like romance in the camps. Sounds like an HBO.
It's the new McHale's Navy.
There you go. Hogan's Hero.
I meant Hogan's Heroes, right? Oh, who else? Anything you want to say? Want to ask?
I'm curious how much younger your brothers were.
The addict is 5 years younger, and the sociopath is 10 years younger.
So it really was the only
After your
children.
parents were in this.
Pardon me?
It was like, because every 5 years, it's like
Every
only,
5 years,
yeah.
and we have two sons, and one is 16 and one is 30. So it is like having two only children, you know.
Wow.
They're both spoiled, and we can only handle one at a time anyway. So the first one is rich and famous now, and now the 16-year-old is in rehab in Utah.
Well, it's genetic and all
Well,
that.
he's adopted. See, that fucks up that whole theory.
Well, his natural parents.
His father, his birth father, was a policeman who was an addict and a
I rest my
loser
case.
and all and also issues of adoption. I mean, he didn't, like he would get angry and say, it's not fair I didn't get to choose my parents. I say, hey, I didn't get to choose mine. But you know what, he's my son, like, you know, I cut the cord, I lifted him, it was a C-section. Oh my God, what you women go through. I lifted him out of the woman, I cut the cord, and I tucked him under my arm because I didn't want her to see him. And the doctor said to her, you want to see the baby? And she said, no, just give him on over to his parents. And I ran out of that hospital like OJ running through an airport. Let's get him out of here. I don't want her to have second thoughts. And he's a great kid. He's a smart kid. And just, you know, got caught up in that scene.
How old is he? 16? How old was he when he started?
Probably 13, 12, you know.
Speaking of which, somebody has an announcement to make. Dina.
I forgot to say this, it's the most important thing in the freaking world. Next week, Carly has 2 years clean and sober. Yeah, I was gonna say that at the end and then I forgot.
You got to say it now. You got to say it
Yeah,
now. That's amazing.
yeah.
And how old is she now?
She's 21.
Fabulous.
She's fabulous.
Does she work for program?
Gorgeous, yes, she goes to meetings.
She happy?
She's happy.
She's beautiful.
She's so pretty, I can't even stand it. I mean, she is gorgeous and funny, and she's just doing so great.
So is
So
there active addiction going on in your house still with other people?
Yes,
So how is that for you trying to stay sober?
hard.
Yeah.